My name is Jake, and I need to tell someone about what happened on Maple Street 3 months ago. I can't sleep anymore. Every Tuesday night when I hear those garbage trucks rumbling down the road, my heart starts racing, and I check all my locks, twice. I moved to 1247 Maple Street in October, a quiet suburban neighborhood where nothing exciting ever happened. The house was cheap, which should have been my first red flag. The previous owner died suddenly, the realtor mentioned casually, but I didn't think much of it. My next-door neighbors at 1245 were 3 brothers, Mike, Danny, and Leo. They lived in this run-down house with peeling paint and an overgrown yard that looked like a junkyard. The first time I saw them, they were standing on their porch just staring at me as I unloaded my moving truck. No waves, no welcome, just cold, angry stares. The oldest brother, Mike, had these hollow eyes that seemed to look right through you. Danny was shorter but built like a tank, always clenching his fists. Leo was the youngest, but somehow the most unsettling. He had this twitchy way of moving and would mutter to himself constantly. From day one, they made it clear I wasn't welcome. When I tried to introduce myself, Mike just grunted and slammed the door. When my mail got mixed up with theirs, Danny threw it back at me without a word. They'd blast music at all hours, let their dog bark endlessly, and glare at me whenever. I came outside, but it was the way they watched me that really got under my skin. I'd catch them peering through their blinds, following my movements. When I'd wave, they'd disappear back into the shadows of their house. The whole street felt wrong. Other neighbors kept to themselves, avoiding eye contact when they walked by. The streetlights flickered constantly, casting strange shadows that seemed to move on their own. Even during the day, Maple Street had this heavy, oppressive feeling that made you want to hurry inside and lock your doors. The weird stuff started about 2 weeks after I moved in. It was small things at first. Things I tried to convince myself were just coincidences. My garbage cans kept getting knocked over, but only mine. I'd set them out Tuesday night for Wednesday, pickup, and by morning they'd be scattered across my driveway, trash everywhere. The first few times, I blamed raccoons or stray dogs. But one morning I found my cans stacked in a perfect pyramid in the middle of my front yard. Animals don't do that. When I mentioned it to my coworker Sarah, she just shrugged. Probably just neighborhood kids messing around, she said. But I never saw any kids on Maple Street. The brothers' behavior got stranger too. They started coming outside whenever I did, like they were waiting for me. If I went to check my mail, there they'd be on their porch. If I took out the trash, they'd emerge from their house and just stand there watching me with those dead eyes. One evening, I was grilling burgers in my backyard when I heard whispers coming from their side of the fence. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was angry, threatening. When I walked closer to listen, the whispers stopped immediately. Then I heard one of them, I think it was Leo, let out this low, disturbing laugh that made my skin crawl. The really creepy part was the smell that started coming from their house around this time. It was sweet and rotten, like meat left out in the sun for days. I thought maybe they had plumbing issues, but the smell seemed strongest near their garbage area. At night, I'd hear them moving around in their yard, dragging heavy things across the ground. The scraping sounds would go on for hours. When I'd peek through my bedroom curtains, I could see their dark figures shuffling back and forth, but I could never quite make out what they were doing. My sleep started suffering. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. to the sound of their back door slamming, followed by muffled voices and more of that scraping. Sometimes I'd hear what sounded like crying or moaning, but I couldn't tell if it was human or animal. The breaking point came on a Thursday morning. I woke up to find "Get Out" scratched into the dirt of my front garden. The letters were deep and angry, carved with something sharp. That's when I knew this wasn't just unfriendly neighbor behavior anymore. Things escalated fast after the message in my garden. The brothers weren't just watching me anymore. They were actively terrorizing me. My car tires got slashed while I was at work. When I came home, all 4 tires were flat, cut with surgical precision. The police officer who responded was Officer Martinez, a tired-looking guy who seemed like he'd seen it all. "Any idea who might have done this?" he asked. I told him about my neighbors, but he just sighed. "The Brennan brothers? Yeah, we know about them, but unless you have proof." He trailed off, looking uncomfortable. "Just keep your distance, okay?" That night, I installed security cameras around my property. If they were going to mess with me, I wanted evidence. The footage I captured over the next week still haunts me. Every night around 2 a.m., I'd see all three brothers emerge from their house carrying large black garbage bags. But here's the thing. Garbage pickup was on Wednesdays, and this was happening every single night. They'd drag these bags to the back of their property and disappear into what looked like a shed. But the bags they brought out weren't the same ones they took in. These bags moved differently, like they contained something soft and heavy, something that shifted as they carried it. The smell got worse too. During the day, if the wind blew the wrong way, I'd have to go inside and close all my windows. It was the kind of smell that stuck in your throat and made you gag. On Monday, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Danny was in their backyard around noon, hosing down what looked like a large plastic tarp. The water running off it was dark red. When he noticed me watching from my kitchen window, he stopped and stared at me for a full minute. Then he smiled, this wide, unnatural grin that didn't reach his eyes. That same week, pets started disappearing from the neighborhood. Mrs. Chen's cat, Whiskers, vanished first. Then the Johnsons' little terrier, Max. I found a missing dog poster, stapled to a telephone pole, and felt sick to my stomach. The brothers started leaving things in my yard. Dead birds arranged in circles, piles of rotting food, and once, a mannequin head with the eyes gouged out sitting on my front steps. Each time I'd clean it up and check my security cameras, but somehow they always found the blind spots. My friends stopped visiting after I told them what was happening. "Just move," my buddy Rick said. "It's not worth it." But I'd put everything into this house, and I wasn't going to let three psychos scare me away. The final straw came on a Tuesday night. I was watching TV when I heard the familiar rumble of the garbage truck coming down the street. But as it got closer, I realized something was wrong. It was nearly midnight. Garbage trucks don't run at midnight. I went to my window and looked out. The truck was moving slowly, stopping at each house. But instead of collecting garbage, it seemed to be dropping something off. And walking alongside it were Mike, Danny, and Leo. That Tuesday night when I saw the garbage truck moving through our neighborhood at midnight, I knew I had to act. This wasn't normal garbage collection. Something was seriously wrong. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, my hands shaking as I watched. The truck creeped down the street. "1, what's your emergency?" "There's a garbage truck in my neighborhood at midnight," I whispered, staying low by my window. "It's not supposed to be here, and my neighbors, they're with it. I think they're doing something illegal." "Sir, can you be more specific about the emergency?" Before I could answer, the truck stopped right in front of my house. All three brothers were standing beside it now, looking directly at my window. Even in the darkness, I could see their eyes reflecting the streetlight like animals. "They're outside my house," I hissed into the phone. "Please send someone now. 1247 Maple Street." "Units are on the way, sir. Stay inside and keep your doors locked." Mike started walking toward my front door, his movement slow and deliberate. Danny and Leo flanked him on either side. The garbage truck's engine kept rumbling, but now I could hear something else. Muffled sounds coming from inside the truck. Sounds that made my stomach turn. They reached my porch, and Mike knocked. 3 slow, heavy thuds that echoed through my house. When I didn't answer, the knocking got louder, more aggressive. Then Leo started laughing. That same disturbing laugh I'd heard before, but now it was right outside my door. "We know you're watching, Jake," Danny called out, his voice carrying clearly through the night air. "We know you called the cops." My blood went cold. How did they know my name? How did they know I'd called 911? The knocking stopped, and for a moment everything was silent except for the garbage truck's engine. Then I heard footsteps moving around my house. They were checking all the windows and doors. That's when I smelled it again. That sweet, rotten smell. But stronger now. It was coming from the garbage truck. Through my back window, I saw Leo trying to jimmy open my gate to the backyard. Mike was still at the front door, but now he was trying the handle. Danny had disappeared, which somehow scared me more than seeing him. Suddenly, my security camera app on my phone started buzzing with alerts. Every camera around my house was detecting motion. But when I opened the app to check the feeds, all the cameras showed nothing but static. A crash from my kitchen made me spin around. The back door was still closed, but something had been thrown through my window. Shattered glass covered my kitchen floor, and sitting in the middle of it was a garbage bag. The bag was moving. I backed away as something inside it writhed and struggled. The bag was tied tight, but whatever was in there was alive and trying to get out. That's when I heard the sirens in the distance. The sound of approaching police cars must have spooked them, because suddenly the knocking stopped. I heard rapid footsteps and car doors slamming. The garbage truck's engine revved up and began moving away quickly. By the time Officer Martinez and his partner arrived, the street was empty except for the garbage bag in my kitchen and the lingering smell of death. "Jesus Christ," Officer Martinez muttered when he saw the bag. His partner, Officer Wong, carefully approached it with a knife. "Don't open it in here," I said quickly. "I don't want to know what's inside." They took the bag outside and I watched from my window as they cut it open on my front lawn. Both officers immediately stepped back, covering their faces. Officer Wong ran to their car and grabbed something. Looked like an evidence bag. Officer Martinez came back inside looking pale and shaken. "Mr. Jake, we need to ask you some questions about your neighbors." "What was in the bag?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. "Parts of the missing pets," he said quietly. "And other things. We're going to need you to stay somewhere else tonight while we process the scene." I packed a bag and went to stay with my friend Rick across town. The next morning, I watched the news from his couch as reporters gathered on Maple Street. "Police discovered what they're calling a house of horrors at 1245 Maple Street," the anchor reported. "3 brothers have been arrested in connection with multiple disappearances and suspected murders. Investigators found evidence of at least 12 victims in various stages of..." I turned off the TV. I didn't need to hear the details. The Brennan brothers, Mike, Danny, and Leo, had been running some kind of sick operation. They'd been killing people, pets, anyone they could get their hands on. The garbage truck belonged to Danny, who had been fired from the sanitation department months earlier but kept the truck. They'd been using it to transport bodies and dump evidence all over the city. Officer Martinez told me later that they'd been watching me from the beginning, planning to make me their next victim. The harassment was meant to isolate me, make me paranoid, cut me off from friends and family. Then they'd strike when I was most vulnerable. "You're lucky you called when you did," he said. "We found restraints in their basement, along with... well, you don't want to know. But here's the thing that still keeps me awake at night. When they arrested the brothers, Leo looked right at me through the police car window and mouthed the words, 'We'll be back.' They're in prison now, all 3 of them. Life sentences, no possibility of parole. But every Tuesday night when I hear garbage trucks in my new neighborhood, I still check all my locks twice. Because sometimes, when the wind is just right, I swear I can still smell that sweet, rotten smell. And sometimes in the middle of the night, I hear that same disturbing laugh echoing in my dreams. I sold the house on Maple Street and moved across the state. But I know the truth now. Monsters don't just live in movies or books. Sometimes they live right next door, and they look just like ordinary people until the sun goes down and their true nature comes out to play. The scariest part? Officer Martinez told me they'd been doing this for years. Years of missing people, missing pets, and nobody connected it to 3 angry brothers on a quiet suburban street. How many other Maple Streets are out there? How many other neighbors are watching and waiting for the right moment to strike? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. But now I always introduce myself to my neighbors, and I pay attention to the little things. The smells, the sounds, the way people look at you when they think you're not watching. Because you never know who's really living next door.